Hi everyone. Today I'll be talking about Kano Model. Kano Model is a tool from Lean methodology, and it helps you organize the requirements of your customers for your project in a more effective manner and per priority. So, what is Kano? Again, it roots from the Lean model, the Lean methodology, and its purpose is prioritizing customers' requirements or product features based on the degree to which they satisfy the customer. Please note that the customer in this case can be external, internal, or your project sponsor. If you have a personal project, the customer of your project is you. And the beauty of this model is that you can even use it for your personal projects. Throughout this presentation, I'll use a disaster recovery project, referred to here as DR, as an example to make sense of the model so that you can see the application of a model to a real experience too. And the DR project that we had was aimed at restoring companies' existing systems and applications and enabling ongoing restore and testing of companies' systems and applications so that in case of a disaster, the information within these systems will be able to recover. So, the grid that Kano Model uses has two axes. The horizontal axis is the feature requirements sophistication. And the more you go to the left, the less requirements sophistication you have, and the more you go towards the right, you get more sophistication. And then your vertical axis is your customer satisfaction. So the higher up means your customer is more satisfied, and the lower you go in the grid, your customer is more dissatisfied. The first category of customer requirements are called must-haves. Must-haves are features and or requirements whose absence doesn't create any dissatisfaction, but their existence does not create any satisfaction either. Within a car analogy, think of it as a wheel or a brake. If a car has wheels on it or a brake, you don't become satisfied. You expect it to be there. However, if it doesn't, you're likely to be very dissatisfied and angry because it can cost you your life. And as you see here, the less sophisticated and existing those requirements, like those wheel or brakes are, the less satisfied your customer is. But the more evolved and sophisticated they are, they reach a plateau. So they don't create any satisfaction. They just your customer becomes neutral. So these are your must-haves, likely the most important category of your customer's requirements or your product features. In the examples that we had, we interviewed the customers, and I need to note here that you should not assume your must-haves on your own and in a silo. You should always interview your customers and stakeholders and all of them, because something that may seem not like a must-have to you, you may think that something is a nice to have, maybe in fact a must-have for your customer. So after we interviewed our customers, we realized that there are two must-have requirements: restoring all of the applications which have not been restored, and testing if the restore has been successful. So those two things were things that our customer actually thought of as must-haves, that they had to exist. If they didn't, they would be angry. If they did exist, it didn't make them any happier. The second category, we call them should-haves. Those are features or requirements whose absence create dissatisfaction, as you see here, and then their existence creates satisfaction. So there is a linear relationship with them. In our example, we had this list. So, for instance, identifying the dependencies between applications, generating DR sequencing and a plan for disaster recovery, having a testing schedule, running the disaster recovery for the most important applications as part of the project, identifying applications that can benefit from more testing, and then generating standard of procedures and artifacts. Those were things that were should have. So if any of them didn't exist, the customer would have been dissatisfied, but with existence of each of them, the customer would become satisfied. So again, I want to emphasize here that you should not assume those yourselves. Always interview your customers. Ask them, if you have multiple stakeholders, ask all of them. Make sure that this comes from your customers' requirements and not you. And the last but not the least, nice to haves. Nice to haves are the opposite of must haves. Those are features and requirements whose absence does not create dissatisfaction, and their existence creates satisfaction. So as you see here, if these requirements don't exist, they don't create any dissatisfaction, discomfort, or anger for your customer. However, if they exist, they actually make your customer happy. So in terms of priority, those are the lowest priority items. In our case, identifying deltas between local and cloud restore time, running the DR applications for a few more applications than what were among the should-haves, and completing extended testing for the identified applications were amongst the nice-to-haves. So if we had completed all the must-haves and should-haves, we had time and capacity, we could focus on these. This grid summarizes for you all three. As you see, must-haves, as mentioned, don't create any satisfaction, but if they're not there, they create dissatisfaction. Should-haves are linear. If they're there, customer is happy. If they're not there, customer is not happy. And nice-to-haves are the opposite of must-haves, the lowest priority. So if they are not there, not an issue. If they are there, your customer becomes happy. And one thing to note is that the priority of the must-haves are the highest, followed by the should-haves, and the lowest priority category is nice-to-haves. Second one, and sorry for repeating it again, make sure that all of these are based on your customer's input and not your assumptions. I'm gonna define some of the other acronyms that are used in the industry. So must-haves are also called basics. Should-haves are also called performance. And nice-to-haves are also called delights or could-haves. So if you see any of these terms, that's what they mean. And this is just a summary of what we discussed for the projects and the bucket for each of the must-haves, should-haves, and nice-to-haves. And a little bit of fun at the end of this video. So, believe it or not, I use this model to prioritize the requirements and the features for our honeymoon. So, and the customer in this case was not only myself, it was myself and my wife. In terms of must-haves, we agreed that safety is something that we expected to be there. If it's safe, we don't become really happy, but if it's unsafe, then there is a price to pay. We had a budget, so we wanted the trip to be within our budget, and we had a limited time, so 7 to 10 days is what we could afford. Based on these, we targeted areas that met these categories. And then the should-haves, for both of us, beach was important, so it created happiness for us. If it weren't there, created unhappiness. Swimming pool, again, was something of importance to both of us. And then having a shuttle to the airport, given our previous experiences, if it weren't there, could create a lot of discomfort for us. And if it were there, it would create a lot of convenience. So these were our should-haves. And nice-to-haves, breakfast included. If included, great. If not, we could go to a coffee shop. Car rentals, if it's there, great. If not, we could use public transport. And spa, again, was something that we wanted to do, but if we actually didn't get to it, not a big deal. So something that I encourage you to do as an activity, and hopefully you find it fun too, is prioritize the requirements of your next vacation based on the Kano model. This could be a good activity to help you get started and put this into practice. If you enjoy our videos, please subscribe to our channel and be tuned for our next videos on project management, lean methodology, agile, and a lot of other hot topics. Thank you for watching this video.